A very good evening to everyone present here today. My name is Fulel Taha and I'm today's moderator. So I am extremely pleased to welcome all of you to yet another session of the author Saga. So we are now live on Facebook and we have individuals joining in from many different countries and areas. So let's just start by giving a quick introduction to Pick a Book. So at Pick a Book, we encourage the reading habit by getting all participants to select a book, read and research on it thoroughly, and present a summary. So this not only helps to hone your public speaking, communication, and presentation skills, but also helps to remember the content you read. So by doing this, Pick a Book inculcates the habit of reading, but also not only does it impart the habit of reading, but also helps to impart a wealth of knowledge. So currently, Pick a Book has marked its inspiring presence in 4 countries, namely Sri Lanka, India, the UK, and Singapore in 1 year. So we have 600 plus readers globally, 18 plus regions, and 30,000 people inspired. So Pick a Book is continuing to spread its wings across the whole globe. Now, Pick a Book has begun an initiation called the Author Saga, and it's a fantastic initiation if you ask me. So through what happens through these sessions is that authors will be able to reach readers and individuals with like-minded interests. So authors can discuss the key insights of their book and viewers will be able to take away from this. So we hope to help authors inspire fellow readers and aspiring authors as well on their journey. So these will be inspiring sessions with authors to ensure that they gain a wider reach and encourage individuals to further enhance their habit of reading. So for today's session, we have quite an interesting topic. So put simply, it's about quitting, right? So we have with us the author of I Quit, the life-affirming journey of joy of giving up. She's also an improv comedy performer, creator of 5 Things Improv Gave, a founder and CEO of Mind Match, and she has also been featured in several podcasts like Beyond the Resumes, Conversations with Warrior Women, Career Up Startup Podcast, Leading People First, and My Worst Investment. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Kunur Bihal, our special guest for today. Kunur,
Hi.
it's a pleasure having you on board.
Thank you. So happy to be here. Yeah, I wanted to just offer one update. My company's name is Mind Hatch, not Mind Match.
Yeah, Mind Hatch. Yes. All right. Thank you, Kunur. So let's talk. I'm really excited to talk about this book, I Quit. Now, I'm assuming that that you wrote this book through your personal experiences. So if I may ask, what was your first big quit?
Yeah. So the book is actually mainly stories that I tell of everyday real people and their quitting stories. And I share their stories about how they summoned the courage to quit things in their lives and to really go against the status quo, and wrest control out of their own lives. But it definitely was informed by my own personal experiences in life as I came to the conclusion that quitting can actually be a good thing and help me make further, better, faster progress in my own life. And so you asked me about my first big quit. Well, I'll share my first big quit that was actually a bad quit, because I think we'll talk about it later as well. I do have a first big quit that was good for me. My first big quit that was not helpful to me, I was not a happy quitter because of it, was when I was in college and I wanted to take an improv class. I got encouraged by a friend to take an improv comedy class, and I signed up. And paid for like an 8-week course. And I went to the first class and then never went back because I was scared of being bad at it. And so I call that, for me personally, and I write about it in the book, as a bad quit, because I had so much regret about it. Like me quitting that didn't match my sense of self or who I wanted to be. I didn't want to be someone who only did things because and when they were good at them. I wanted to be someone who was open to being challenged, and learning new things. And so I always reference that as like my first kind of, oh my God, that was a terrible quit, because I harbored regret for it for years. But fortunately, I unquit it, and years later began doing improv comedy. And now it's 10 years after that, and it's been a huge part of my life and my work at Mindhatch for a decade now.
All right, that's quite an interesting story, Kunur. So thank you so much for that. Now, so basically this book is about quitting. So for the audience joined in here today, they would like to know, why is quitting actually good for you? How is quitting good for you?
Yeah. So gosh, I mean, there's like so many ways I could answer that question. So I would say, so the book contains like 19 stories of people who quit things in their lives. And I'd say you can take several different lessons from each one of the stories. But my kind of encapsulation from my own life, as well as, interviewing these people for the book, is that quitting can be good for you because it's you, like I said earlier, taking control over your life. It is you making a conscious, intentional choice about your life. Now, you can make that choice as well, even if you're not quitting. As I say in the book, quitting is a choice, but so is not quitting. And I think all too often we view just not making a change as just kind of like living our lives with inertia and just, continuing on without actually making a conscious decision about why we're doing that. So I think quitting is really powerful and empowering because it can be a way that you can live your values. You can quit things that are not serving you or don't match your values or don't match who you are, who you want to be. And so I think quitting can be a very powerful act in kind of just owning your life. And also, as I experienced and the people in my book experienced, quitting can be very good because it then opens yourself up to so many other things in life that come your way that will be better matches for you.
All right. So we also have a few audience members. So Azim Sahir says, glad you could join the Pick a Book author Saga, and all the best. So thank you, Azim, for that. So, Kunur, you when you talked about your experiences, improv came up a lot, right? So, how does your improv experience in improv tie in with your interest in quitting?
Yeah, well, it's one of those things where, hindsight is 2020. And of course you can connect the dots many years later, where is in the moment, maybe you can't. But I think there's a reason why someone like me is interested in both improv and in quitting. And I think it's because, improv is, as I often say with my clients that I do improv with, a lot of it is about having the courage to act in the absence of complete information. And I think, quitting is very similar. Like I think we've honestly in society been fooled into thinking that staying put is less risky rather than making a change. Sticking it out and committing and completing that thing simply because you made a decision years ago is the less risky thing to do. And improv is all about taking risk, and being vulnerable when you don't have complete information, right? And so similarly, I think quitting is an act of courage precisely because you can't predict what's going to come, right? It's a leap of faith, right? And you're taking a chance and probably a calculated risk that what waits for you on the other side is better than where you are now. And so I think they're both very similar in the sense that, both acting without certainty, right? But acting with joy out of that uncertainty, and really embracing uncertainty, making yourself vulnerable. and the spontaneity, yeah. And I think it's in improv also, we have this phrase where if you're in a scene, you often want to try to play to the top of your intelligence, so your character knows what you know. And I think similarly in life, we can only act with what we have. We can't sit around and wait and hope we have 100% complete information before we act, because we're never going to have 100% complete information.
All right. It does take, quitting does take courage, Kunur. So thank you so much for that answer. So you also mentioned about the stories in the book, right? There were a few many stories that you have included. Could you tell the audience one of those stories? We would really love to hear one of those stories.
Sure. I mean, I'm often asked what is my favorite story, and I promise you, I'm not being coy when I say like I love all of them. I think all of them are really compelling. Again, they're just everyday real people, who ultimately found that their original choice was no longer serving them, and they made a change. And I think one story that always stands out to me is the story titled "I Quit Being a Doctor." And, you can imagine, the sunk costs that go into becoming a doctor, like the years of training, the expense of that training, and as I interviewed this woman named Yvonne, who decided after she'd become a doctor and was doing her residency to stop. She decided to quit. And I bring up her story because I think it reveals another aspect of the power of quitting, because a lot of our choices in life are about trade-offs, right? Like, I'm willing to trade off this if I can have this. Like, and that in essence is you acting in your values. Like, what do I value more than this thing that I might lose? And I think Yvonne's story is so powerful because she lost a lot by choosing to quit being a doctor. The story goes into more detail, but in short, she lost her husband. Her husband left her. She and her 2 children were living in their car. They were homeless for many months because of that. And so these were very, very dire consequences that she experienced from her choice. But she still has no regrets. She wouldn't do it any other way. She says, no, like, I would have quit all over again. And Yvonne, much like everyone else in the book, their only regret is that they didn't quit sooner. They wish they'd taken that action and had that courage earlier in their lives. And so I bring that up because I think the power of trade-offs is very much bound up in the power of quitting, and Yvonne, I think her story really exemplifies that.
All right. So if you are still in touch with Yvonne, convey my regards, because that takes a lot of courage, especially as a to like, when you just said that, my eyebrow shot up, because not something you hear. Very you hear someone who wants to quit. Thank you so much, Kunur. So basically, we talked about you're the CEO and founder of MindHatch, right? So how does quitting inform your work at MindHatch?
Yeah, it's I think the mindsets behind quitting have a lot to do with the work I do when it comes to helping clients be innovative. I think the main connection point I can bring up right now in the short time that we have is this idea of failure, right? I think one of the erroneous things that society has us believe when it comes to quitting is that quitting is failing, right? You quit because you're bad at something, you quit because you fail, or quitting is a sign that you are a failure. Again, my book is totally upending that conventional wisdom, which I don't think is actually very wise. So I shouldn't call it wisdom. And so I think, like, if I help my clients kind of reframe things that in a traditional context might be seen as failures or high risk. When I'm helping them innovate, it's about taking productive risks, like risks and failures that you can learn from, that are going to help you be successful, faster, cheaper, and all of that. And I think you can see the connection between what I said earlier with quitting. It's like quitting is like, okay, I made this decision, who knows, yesterday, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Just because I made that, I'm no longer the same person I might have been 20 years ago, 10 years ago, or even yesterday, right? So I'm going to take this calculated productive risk based on the knowledge I have of myself, to take an action forward, right? To be more successful, quicker, faster, and hopefully easier. And so I think that act of like reinvention is very similar in terms of like the courage and the mindsets it takes to make a big decision like quitting something in your life. It's very, very similar to like the mindsets and the courage it takes to take productive risks and to seek to fail in order to succeed in innovation as well.
All right. So amazing answer again, Kunur. So one thing most people ask is that, is quitting actually innovative? So what is your answer to that?
Yeah. So, I mean, of course, I'm biased because I wrote a book in praise of quitting, but I work in innovation. So I would say quitting can be innovative, right? So I think if we're going to take as a definition of innovation, of which there are many, but if we're going to take the definition of innovation as being, something new that creates value, right? That's like maybe one working definition of innovation. I think, the act of quitting is, trying to get something new that's going to create different or better value for you. So I think I go back more to this phrase about like reinvention and progress. I think the book is a lot about quitting as an act of progress towards what you want. And I think similarly, like the methods that I use for innovation with clients, it's also about, making that progress toward an innovative solution. So I think there's a lot of connection there. I think especially in like the spirit behind both things.
All right. So basically, we have a lot of audience members watching in. So what would your like advice be for someone who is finding it really difficult to quit? What would the first few steps be?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question actually, because there is an accompanying toolkit. You can get the I Quit Toolkit at iquitbook.com. And what else answer your question now will be very much reflective in that toolkit. But I would say if you're questioning right now, okay, I'm not happy in this, or this is no longer serving me, or this is not helping me meet my values or my goals in life. I would say the beginning stage is to really examine yourself and what you know to be true about yourself. I think that's where that values comes in really well. So what do you value right now in this moment? Of course, your values can change, and that's why you might quit something began 10 years ago, right? Because we all change. But I would say if in this moment you're trying to make the decision, I would really assess, okay, what do I know about myself? What do I know about my values? What do I know about my trade-offs that I'm willing to make? What do I know that I'm not willing to put up with? And it's actually a question I asked all my interview subjects for the book. What are you not willing to put up with, right? Like, what is your line in the sand that you're not willing to cross? And I think if you can really do some thinking, maybe even writing as a toolkit has you do, you can figure out like, okay, wow, I'll make up an example. Someone today might be wanting to quit their job because they're highly irritated by some annoying coworker, right? And they're like, oh, I can't take this anymore. I have to leave, right? I need a change. But then maybe upon further reflection, they realize, oh, wait a second. This job, this company, I really value and stand for the mission. That's really important to me, more so than say my day-to-day work annoyances, and so that invented person, who has his trade-offs might then be at peace with like, okay, not quitting because, okay, wait a second, I value something greater than this annoying coworker is having, the impact on me of. Could be the reverse, right? Maybe what you discover is, oh, wait, like my colleagues are the most important thing, to me. Like that's what I value the most. And then maybe you'll make a different decision. So I would say really just begin with that self-examination of what do you value? What are your trade-offs? And what are you not willing to put up with?
All right. So I'm glad you said that, because most of us, we tend to take decisions, or rather quit, based on these temporary feelings we have. So I'm glad you said that you need to sit down and work it out, and actually really think on if whether you should quit. And I'm sure your toolkit would come in handy. So thank you, Kunur. So
yeah, the toolkit is designed to help you be a happy and courageous quitter, but it will also take you through examining your previous quits in life to help you kind of deduce, like, what did that mean about me? Like, what does that tell me that my values are? And then it'll also help you think forward for future quits as well.
Okay, wonderful. And they can find this toolkit at
iQuitBook.com.
iQuitBook.com. Yeah. All right. So we talked about innovation, right? And how quitting and the relationship. Now, my next question to you, Kunur, is does quitting inspire creativity? Or, yeah.
Yeah, I think well, yes, but why I'm kind of looking up to kind of ponder the question a bit more is because I think quitting is an act of creation, right? Again, kind of I go against the grain when we think it's like failure or you're creating a void or the absence of something in your life. I think quitting is progress, right? So it's an act of creating something new for yourself. So from that standpoint, I think yes, like quitting is creative because you're intentionally forging a new path for yourself, right? I think also like, creativity is probably required, if not just helpful, to the act of quitting. Like you might need to be able to like believe in yourself, think that there's a different path forward or many paths forward than the one that you're on now. It might require the same kind of expansive, divergent thinking that creativity requires as well. So I think it's definitely chicken egg. I think quitting both inspires creativity, but also is the result of creativity.
All right. So I have one final question to ask, Kunur. I know you have to catch a flight very soon. So
no, I've seen my parents for the first time since the pandemic began. So I'm getting on a flight today to see them. I'm really excited.
All right. Yeah. So let's go through with the final question. Now, why do people not quit something they should quit? Or what signs should you look for when it comes to quitting?
Yeah. Okay. So why do people not quit when they should quit? That was the question. So I think this idea of should, is it's very personal, right? Like only you can decide if you should quit something. And so I think what makes it hard for people is, again, a lot of the toxic like phrases and cultures that we've been brought up with, here in America, we have phrases like quitters never win, which is just not true, at all, and so and it inspires this kind of toxic positivity of like, you can do it, just keep trying harder, 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 but the truth is that working harder doesn't always get results, right? There's not always a linear output that you can expect, right? And so I think what makes it hard are those societal, cultural, and familial expectations. I think that's why the people in my book showed such courage, because they defied those expectations and they decided to stop living their lives for someone else. And they also decided to stop living their lives out of other people's fears. So it's other people's fears often that like make us feel like we can't take action in our lives because what'll happen, and you're like, well, figure out if that is your fear or if you've just absorbed it from other people and you're living your life based on their fears for their own lives. So I think those things is kind of the societal, cultural, and family expectations can make it very hard. And then also this kind of being in the habit maybe of living your life for other people as opposed to your own. I think those are all really tough things to get over. I don't want to make light of how hard that is, but I think that's why quitters deserve to be known as courageous and brave, you know, as opposed to how I think we currently view them. Yeah.
All right. So it's basically you taking charge of your life and not, basically you put your own thoughts before other people's opinions. So Kunur, before I let you go, I actually told my team that I'd be having a conversation with you, and they are actually they had a few questions regarding becoming an author. So
Oh yeah.
do you have any advice for a first time author, as in someone who's looking forward to writing a book?
Yes, I have so much I could say about my own experience. So, as a first-time author, I did go through an author writing course, and so and I worked with a publisher. So, I had a lot of help. I had a lot of guidance around not doing the things that a lot of first-time authors do that get in the way of their books being successful. So a lot of what I'll give as advice is not my own, but it's like given to me by the people who are helping me. So the first thing I would say is get help, you know, whether it's talking to other authors who have done it before, or it's like doing your research to find out what it takes to promote and market a book. I would say the biggest thing I learned from my program that I would not have known if I had done it entirely on my own was this idea of building a community around your book from day one. So even before you've written your first manuscript, build a community. Tell people you're writing a book and what it is about. Don't be secretive, you know, build that goodwill, get people's emails, tell them about your journey as you go along. I think that was something that I would not have known to do if I hadn't been kind of told to do it in my program. And so I think that is definitely the number one piece of advice I would give to a first-time author is don't be secretive. Don't spend a year writing your book and not tell anyone and then release it and expect people to come. You know, you really need to bring people along with you in your journey.
All right. Yeah, and just one more question, Kunur. I promise it's the last question. So they also wanted to know for a first time, as in how long did it take for you to write this book, I Quit?
Yeah, so I began my program last June, and the program basically takes you through a week by week process of writing your first manuscript in 5 months. So in 5 months, I had about 60 to 70,000 words written. I had a first manuscript, very poor, just like a first draft, and then I began working with my publisher to edit it, and then it was published at the end of April. So I'd say all in all, about 9-10 months is what it took me to go from zero to publishing.
All right. That was an extremely inspiring conversation. And I am surely going to read this book. And I know all of our viewers today will want to as well. So could you tell us where we can get this book from?
Yeah, well, it is available on Amazon everywhere in the world that Amazon is active, which I think is a lot of places. You can get the ebook as well as the paperback right now, and the hardcover will be released later this summer. It's also available in the U.S. At a place called bookshop.org. I'm not sure if that's international in orientation at all, but bookshop.org is all about supporting local independent bookstores, but you can still buy online from them as well.
All right. So with that, we have come to the end of our Author Saga session, which is a part of Pick a Book. So once again, Pick a Book encourages the reading habit by getting all participants to select a book, read and research on it thoroughly, and present a summary, which also helps to hone his or her public speaking, communication, and presentation skills. So by doing this, Pick a Book not only inculcates the habit of reading, but also helps to impart a wealth of knowledge. So if you would like to be a part of the Pick-a-Book community, or if you would like to see Pick-a-Book in your region and join the journey of inspiring people, please reach out to us and send us an email via the ID present on the screen. We are all eagerly waiting to hear from you. My name is Fuller Taha, and I was the moderator this evening. And thank you so much, Kunur, for joining us and sharing your insights. So it was truly a brilliant session. Thank you and good night.